How did Propeller start? Well, I always call it the accidental theatre company. It started simply because of a desire of mine to explore Shakespeare in a slightly different way to the one I felt I was expected to. I did a production of Othello about 15 years ago, which was, it was a success, and I did it at the Watermill with Jill Fraser, produced it. He was then running the Watermill, and it felt slightly like I'd done it for other people and not completely for me, and I felt it was a little particularly constricted by the indoor theatre, and that Shakespeare and the energy of the writing and the metaphorical content of what he's writing about and the fairy story landscapes that he creates were not things that I was able to embrace in the staging of the play in the way I'd done it, and so I thought I would try it again, except just throw a few things up in the air, and I thought I would do an all-male cast, because that was traditional, that's how we used to do it, and I thought I would make all the music myself, so I get the actors to make the music, do the scene changes. I'll give you an example. If you have a television in a bar, I thought I'll have the frame of the television, I'll have an actor holding it up, and they will speak what's on the television and improvise it and make it up, rather than spending hours working out how to plug the telly and how it's getting on stage, what images you're going to put on, getting them cleared, and etc, etc. So everything we did was essentially in the actor's hands and creating the performance. So if you like, I was sort of taking away a few of the modern gifts of theatre and stripping things back a bit and making it to do with the imagination of the performers, and therefore I hoped the imagination of the audience in the way they watched the play as an extremely surreal experience, but through that and underneath that would give a very real emotional intellectual experience of what Shakespeare was writing about. And I also wanted to turn it into a bit of an event, so we played music in the interval as well, and we tried to give the audience an experience from the moment they walked into the theatre to the moment they left. Yes, I thought with Henry V we ought to just get a little bit of experience of what it might be like to train, and so we engaged the services of the British Army, who've been training us 3 times a week, taking us up to Clapham Common and doing fitness training, doing team building exercises, teaching us how to run forward under fire, crawl, rescue wounded people in the field, and it's been really good just to get a sense of how focused you have to be when you're in those situations. Sometimes with 2 or 3 of them screaming at us all in one go, and they've been great, and it's been a very good visceral, unintellectual kind of way of bonding together, and also getting physically fit. So Henry V, the way we're doing it, is an extremely physical show. When we did our first run through, I looked at it and I realised it was actually a very lucky thing that we'd been fitness training as well 3 times a week. And when I say 3 times a week, I mean an hour non-stop. You don't stop moving for an hour. You interval train for an hour. You're never allowed to rest. So it is pretty intense stuff. And it's good that we've done it, because at the moment everyone's fit enough to do the play. What we'll be like in 10 months, I'm not sure. I'm setting Winter's Tale, the first half of it, in Sicilia, in a sort of slightly an idea of a sort of modern Italy. So very beautiful clothes, very elegant, and most of it happens at night actually, apart from the trial. That will be contemporary in feel, but lots of candlelight. It won't be mobile phones and electricity. It'll be candlelight, and people playing piano to each other in the evening, and it'll be a world where oracles exist, which is interestingly enough, it's a play that doesn't have a god as we know him or her. It runs by the sort of Roman system of gods. So there's Apollo is the person they look for. Apollo's oracle, which Leontes looks to pass judgment on whether his wife is guilty or innocent of the crimes that he knows she has committed. So we'll be Monte Italy for that, and candlelight and romance and loveliness. And when we go to Bohemia, I've imagined in Bohemia, the centre of Bohemia is a pastoral scene. And when I say pastoral, I mean it's the annual sheep shearing country fair of a community of people who celebrate the harvest, essentially. And we've imagined that This is a little community you would discover somewhere in the West Country if you walked through the right hedge, the right moment, rather like walking through that wall on the right platform to discover the train to Hogwarts. Suddenly go through that little gate and there they'll be. And it's sort of like a very naive, guileless mini Glastonbury. So we sort of group of people coming together and camping and making their own little enclave for a few days while they celebrate their year's end, and play music and eat and drink and just detach themselves from the world for a little bit, which all those festivals have that feel. But there's a wonderful innocence to it, which is very important. And that's where we'll be taking Bohemia, and into that walks a character called Autolycus, who is like the snake in the Garden of Eden, who just exploits everyone. He'll be this sort of dreadful, sort of slightly weathered, aging Lothario pop star, who is only wants to steal and exploits people's stupidity. It's not enough for him just to steal something from you. He wants to do it so that you almost help it to happen, just to illustrate what a stupid idiot you are, and also to make himself feel good when underneath it he knows he's a coward and a liar. So that's the sort of roughly. Then at the end of the play, the two worlds collide back in Sicilia, which in the interim from the beginning has become, I think, a cold, desolate place, snowbound, and you finish in a magical gallery full of stars with a statue. Touring has always been the thing that we love doing. It's been how the company began. When we began, we used to put our sets into flight cases and push them through airports, terminals, and put them on as excess baggage. The sets were that small, that light. And the experience of putting these plays, or any play actually, in front of a different audience every week is extraordinarily invigorating. Sometimes not because of the difference of the reactions, but because you find you get the same laugh in Jakarta that you got in Swindon. And then you wonder how that could be possible, and how that sense of humour has... And then you become aware of something that we all share, regardless of where we live and who we are. And it's fascinating to do that, and to take the work we're doing to as many different corners of the world as possible, in front of as many different groups of people. It keeps informing what we do. It keeps us fresh, if you like. And it's always been at the centre of the activity, and I think will always be at the centre of the activity as Propeller as a touring company.